Sound of steady rain tapping against windows. Occasional distant thunder. A low, eerie ambient melody hums beneath it all. There's something about being alone at night when the rain falls steadily against the windows. The world goes quiet, but your mind grows loud. Every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights, feels like it means something more. Something watching, something waiting. Out there, the world is drenched, dark, and deserted. Inside, you're warm, safe, or so you think. But when the storm clouds roll in and shadows stretch long across your walls, your senses sharpen. You begin to notice things that were always there, just out of sight. It's in these moments that fear doesn't knock. It seeps in, through the cracks, through the sound of the rain, through the silence between each rumble of thunder. The stories you're about to hear are not born from imagination. They are real accounts, experiences shared by those who thought they were just spending another rainy night alone, until they realized they weren't. Listener discretion is advised. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen carefully not just to me, but to the sounds around you. Because sometimes, when the rain falls hardest, something else is moving in the dark. This is the first story. Sound of rain growing heavier. Occasional wind whistling through trees. A fireplace crackles softly. Her name was Emma. A freelance writer from the city, she had rented a remote cabin deep in the woods for a 2-week retreat. No neighbors, no distractions, just peace, quiet, and the sound of the rain tapping on the roof. It was the perfect storm for creativity, literally. Outside, the rain poured relentlessly, turning the dirt path into sludge and the forest into a misty wall of shadows. Inside, it was cozy. A small fire burned in the hearth. Her laptop glowed softly on the wooden desk. A warm mug of tea steamed beside her. She felt safe. It was around 9:30 p.m. when she first heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Soft, gentle, like a fingertip against glass. She looked up from her writing and turned toward the large living room window. Nothing, just the rain. Probably a tree branch swaying in the wind, she thought. She went back to typing. Another tap, tap, tap. This time at a different window, the one near the kitchen. She stood up, walked over, parted the curtain. Again. Nothing. She chuckled nervously. Okay, Emma. Cabin paranoia, she muttered. But as the night deepened, so did the sound. Tap, tap, tap. Now near the back window. Tap, tap, tap. Then the one near her bedroom. Each time she checked, there was no one. Nothing. Just the endless rain. She tried to shake it off. Lit a candle, turned off the laptop, and curled up with her journal instead. But just as she started to write, the lights flickered. Then, a pop, everything went black. The storm had killed the power. She sighed, found the flashlight in the kitchen drawer, and lit 3 more candles. Their soft glow made the cabin feel smaller, like the darkness was pressing against the windows from all sides. Then she noticed it. On the large living room window, just outside the candlelight's reach, were handprints. Muddy, smeared, unmistakably human. But they were high up, far too high for any animal, and higher than she could reach without standing on something. Her breath caught. She hadn't heard anyone approach. The ground outside was soaked. Any footsteps should have squelched. But it had been silent, except for that tapping. She stepped closer, holding the flashlight. The prints were fresh. Long fingers, wide palms. Some of them streaked downward, like someone had been slowly dragging their hands down the glass. She backed away. A sudden, loud knock at the front door made her jump. One knock, just one. Sharp, clear. She froze. Who the hell would be out here in this storm? The door was locked, and she wasn't about to open it. She waited, flashlight shaking in her hand. No second knock. No voice. Just the storm. She crept to the door and looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just blackness. Not even porch light, the power was still out. She didn't sleep. Just sat in the corner chair, wrapped in a blanket, clutching the flashlight until the batteries flickered low. Around 2 a.m., she started to doze off. Then came another sound. Scrape, Not tapping this time. A slow dragging, like wet fabric being pulled across wood. It was coming from the side of the house. She didn't want to look. Every part of her body screamed to stay still. But something deeper told her she had to see. She moved toward the window. Slowly, candle in hand. The sound stopped. She stood there, heart pounding in her ears, the rain thundering down just inches away. Then flash. A bolt of lightning lit up the entire yard for one brief, blinding second. And in that flash, she saw it. A face, pressed up against the glass. Pale, expressionless, eyes wide open, watching her. Her candle dropped to the floor. She screamed, backing away, tripping over the edge of the rug. When she scrambled back up, the window was empty again. But the face, she would never forget it. Wet, gaunt, not angry, just blank. Like it had been watching her for hours. She didn't wait for morning. She grabbed her coat, her keys, and bolted out the back door into the rain. Drenched and terrified, she sprinted through the mud, her boots slipping with every step, not stopping until she reached her car at the edge of the woods. When the police arrived the next morning, they found muddy footprints circling the cabin. Over and over again. No sign of forced entry. No tracks leading away, just circles. The face was never identified. Some say it was a squatter. Others, something else. But Emma never returned to that cabin. And the next guest? They reported the same tapping on the first night. Sound of heavy rain pouring onto concrete. Occasional water dripping from rooftops. Slow footsteps splashing through puddles. It was past midnight when Mark clocked out of his shift at the diner. His car had broken down earlier that week, so he had no choice but to walk the 4 miles home. Normally, he didn't mind the fresh air. But tonight, the rain was relentless. Cold. Unforgiving. His umbrella barely held up against the wind. It bent with every gust, and the rain still managed to soak the back of his jeans. Streetlights flickered above him. The sidewalks were empty. The only sound was the rhythmic splatter of rainwater in the gutters. At first, he didn't notice the figure. It was just a shape at the corner of his eye. A silhouette standing still beneath a broken street lamp across the street. He didn't think much of it. Just another night owl trying to get somewhere. He kept walking. A few minutes later, he looked up and saw the same figure again. This time on his side of the road. A few paces behind. Still not moving. Still watching. Mark slowed. The shape didn't. He turned a corner. When he glanced back again, it was there. Standing at the mouth of the street. Not closer. Not farther. Just there. There were no cars. No passing people. Just rows of dark buildings and overflowing puddles reflecting yellow streetlight. The air smelled like wet asphalt. Mark picked up his pace. His footsteps grew louder, faster, until they echoed down the block. Then he heard it. Another pair of footsteps. Behind him. But when he stopped, they stopped. He stood still, straining to hear beyond the rain. Silence. Then he walked again, and so did they. He spun around. Nobody. Just puddles rippling where someone could have been standing. A sinking feeling settled in his chest. He turned onto a side street, a shortcut he normally avoided. It was narrow and shadowed, a tight alleyway between 2 crumbling apartment buildings. But his nerves told him to get off the main road. Halfway through, the footsteps started again. But this time, they didn't match his. They were slower, heavier, one after the other splashing deliberately behind him. He turned sharply, flashlight from his phone flicking on. There she was, a woman, standing at the end of the alley, motionless, wearing a long white dress, completely soaked. The fabric clung to her thin frame. Her hair hung in dripping strands, hiding most of her face. But there was something wrong. Mark squinted, lifting the light higher. She had no face. Not hidden, not obscured, just smooth, wet skin where features should have been. He stared, frozen. Water rolled down his neck. His mouth was dry. The woman didn't move. She just stood there, head tilted slightly, as if listening. Then, slowly, she raised her arm. Pointed. Not at him. Behind him. Behind him. Mark turned in a panic. Nothing was there. When he looked back, she was closer. Only 20 feet now. Still pointing. Still watching. His legs finally reacted. He ran. He slipped twice, caught himself, tore down another alley, through an open fence, across a soggy lawn. Everything blurred into black and gray as his breath quickened. Another glance back. She was still there. Not running. Not walking. Just appearing. Like the rain carried her from one place to another. He stumbled into an empty parking lot, trying to find another way through. Dead end. A brick wall blocked his path. The footsteps returned. Closer. Wet and slow. He turned around. She was only 10 feet away now. The rain beat down harder than ever. She took one step, then another, and still no face. Just that blank, dripping skin and the white dress stained with street water. Mark backed into the wall. No, 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 he whispered. Then the world tilted. He slipped on the wet pavement, hit his head. Everything spun. His last memory was of lying there in the rain, and the faceless woman standing above him, watching, not moving, just watching. Then darkness. When he opened his eyes, it was blindingly bright. Hospital lights. A nurse leaned over him. "You're lucky," she said. "Someone saw you from a passing bus. Said you were lying in the rain. You must have passed out." Mark blinked, confused. "How long was I out?" "Only about an hour. You've got a mild concussion. We checked your vitals. You'll be fine." He sat up slowly, his heart still racing. There was someone in the alley." The nurse frowned. "Nobody was there when we found you. Just you. Lying on dry ground, oddly enough." That caught his attention. "Dry?" "Yeah," she said. "Not a drop on your clothes." He looked down. She was right. His shirt, his pants, his shoes, all clean, all dry. He reached into his jacket pocket instinctively. There was something inside. He pulled it out. It was a photograph. Old, water-stained, black and white. A woman in a white dress, standing in a street, head tilted. But her face was missing. He stared at it, hands trembling. The nurse looked over his shoulder. "Where did you get that?" He didn't answer, because he didn't know. Soft rain continues outside. Distant thunder rumbles. The quiet hum of fluorescent lights fills the background. Jacob was a sophomore, renting a one-bedroom apartment near campus. It wasn't much. Faded carpets, flickering kitchen lights, but it was cheap, and more importantly, quiet. Or at least, it used to be. It had been raining nonstop for 2 days. The kind of downpour that made the city seem smaller. All classes were canceled, streets flooded, and Jacob was stuck indoors, buried under textbooks and deadlines. That's when he started hearing the noises. Heavy footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the apartment above his Unit 405. First, he thought nothing of it. Maybe someone was pacing during the storm, restless like him. But then came the dragging sounds, as if something heavy or someone was being pulled across the floor. Had been crying for hours. On the third day, Jacob had enough. He went downstairs to the building manager's office. "Is someone staying in 405? He asked. The manager blinked. "No. That unit's been empty for months. We've been fumigating it for mold. It's locked up tight." Jacob hesitated. "Are you sure? I've been hearing things, like someone's walking around, crying." The manager shook his head. "Impossible. Nobody has the key but us." That night, the noises got worse. The crying turned into whispering, words he couldn't quite make out. The dragging grew louder right above his bed. And then, the leak started. First, it was just a soft drip. He looked up from his desk to see a dark spot forming in the ceiling. Water. It had to be. He placed a bowl under it and went back to work. But an hour later, he noticed the color had changed. It wasn't clear anymore. It was red, dark, almost rusty, but too thick to be water. Jacob called his friend Matt. "I need to check something upstairs. You coming?" Matt arrived 20 minutes later, flashlight in hand. Together, They climbed the stairs to the 4th floor. The hallway was dark. The overhead lights flickered as if the storm was messing with the wiring. The door to 405 stood at the very end. Plain. Unremarkable. But something was off. The door was open. Just barely. Not enough to notice unless you were looking closely. Jacob reached for the knob. Creaked as it opened. The smell hit them first. Damp. Rotting wood. Mold. And something else metallic. Inside, the apartment looked abandoned but not empty. Furniture still sat where it had been left. Covered in mold. The wallpaper was peeling. Dishes were still in the sink. But someone had been there recently. Footprints in the dust. A mattress on the floor. Open food cans. A single candle burnt down to the base. They followed the footprints. Into the hallway. Into the bedroom. That's where they saw the blood. It wasn't a pool, more like a trail. Smudged, like something had been dragged across it. It led to the closet door. Matt hesitated. Dude! Jacob stepped forward and slowly pulled the closet open. Inside were a pair of water-soaked sneakers. Children's size. Next to them, a small black VHS tape. No label. Just the faint smell of mildew. Matt picked it up. What the hell is this doing here? They didn't say another word. They took the tape and left. Back in Jacob's apartment, they dug out an old VHS player from the storage closet, plugged it in, slid the tape in with a soft click. The screen flickered. Static. Then the inside of apartment 405. The same room they had just been in. Except this time, it was from inside the closet, looking outward. The camera was shaky. Someone was breathing heavily, hiding, watching. The timestamp in the corner read 12:03 a.m. That was only 10 minutes ago. On screen, the front door creaked open. 2 people walked in. Jacob and Matt. The camera zoomed slightly. Watched them move through the apartment. Into the bedroom. They paused. Looked at something off-screen. The tape cut to static. Jacob stood frozen. That's not possible, Matt whispered. Someone was in that closet. Someone was filming us. Then a loud bang. They both jumped. Came from above. From the ceiling. The lights flickered again. Then another sound. A low groan of wood bending under pressure. Jacob looked up. A crack was forming in the ceiling above his bed. Right where the red water had dripped earlier. But now the drip had turned into a steady stream. Thick, red, warm. The plaster began to bubble and split. Then another bang, louder. Closer. Matt backed toward the door. We need to go. Now. Jacob stared up at the ceiling as the crack widened. Water pouring down like a faucet. Thunder boomed in the distance, shaking the windows. And then, a whisper. Faint. Coming from inside the walls. Help me. The ceiling groaned one last time. And then it started to cave in. OUTRO? Approximate. 200 to 250 words. Reflective narration. Rain washes the world clean, but sometimes it reveals what's been buried. Reminder that these stories are based on real encounters. Warning. Next time you hear a knock during a storm, think twice before you open the door. Call to action. If you enjoyed this hour of horror, leave a like, subscribe, and share your own rainy night story in the comments. Until next time, sleep tight.